There we go.
There we go.
I was trying to avoid sirens. Heather, before we get started, do you mind giving me the pronunciation of your last name so I don't have to guess
Yes.
and probably get it wrong?
Yes, it is Dahmer, and no, there is no relation to Jeffrey, I promise.
I wasn't going to ask because figure you probably get that question a lot. Although
I do.
a funny story that we can put in the blooper reel. My name is Brian Westbrook, and there's a Philadelphia Eagles football player that is also named Brian Westbrook. And so every once in a while, especially when I'm in the East Coast, I'm like, "Oh, are you related to Brian Westbrook?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, I am." What kind of a question is that? But it's really good when I want to get restaurant reservations in
Yeah.
Philadelphia because I call and I say, "Hey, I'm Brian Westbrook," and they're like, "Oh, we'll get you a great table right away, sir, right away." And I'm like, "Okay."
There you go. And then you show up and they're like, wait, what?
Wah, wah. That's right. That's right. So, questions I have for you looking back at your
Yes.
AI implementation journey, biggest lessons. How do you personally decide the team is ready? That's going to be a good one. I'm excited about that one. Signals to look beyond leadership enthusiasm, and then I want to go into a little more of the use case, sort of what you've got, examples, and then we'll just see where the conversation goes. As a reminder,
Yeah.
it's pre-recorded. If anything is completely wrong, feel free to just say, "Whoa, we got to stop this." But otherwise, we like to keep it conversational and just keep look right into your camera, give us honest and earnest answers, have some fun with it, and hopefully I won't choke on the coffee I just tried to down too quickly.
No
Global
worries.
head of demand gen, sales, activation, and intelligence at Software One.
Yes, that is
Awesome.
the title. It's a
Perfect.
mouthful.
You know what? It's perfectly fine. I got it written right here in front of me, so we'll be good. All right, here we go,
All
everybody.
right.
Showtime. This is Hiring AI Agents and the Rise of Revenue Orchestration. This series from Outreach and GeekWire Studios explores how AI agents are becoming full members of the revenue team and how AI powered revenue orchestration is reshaping sales, marketing, partnerships, and finance. I'm your host, Brian Westbrook. Joining me today, Heather Dahmer. Heather is the global head of demand gen, sales activation, and intelligence with Software One. Heather, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Brian.
I want to talk about your own AI implementation journey. Let's go into some of the biggest lessons that you'd tell yourself on day one if you could go back in time, if you will. What do you wish you knew then?
Well, I think we all knew that our CRM data was not great, but data is definitely the foundation to everything that you're going to do when it comes to AI. So, when thinking about our implementation with Outreach, getting and spending the time to clean up our data, making
Mm-hmm.
sure we didn't have tons of duplicates, incorrect email addresses, phone numbers, things like that was critical. And we're still learning some of the lessons from that as we go. We're still uncovering new things. So, especially, we've just brought together two different CRM systems as we've just acquired Crayon. And so they are now coming into our systems as well. So, of course, data needs to be a big priority. And then I think the other one was really around the human in the loop factor, making sure that you weren't just looking at a workflow and just moving into it. You needed to actually take people through the process to make sure that what we were building was going to work.
When you think about the human in the loop and you think about that human factor of supplementing AI and adding it to your teams and building it into your ecosystem, what is one thing that you've heard from those humans, the front line that might be affected by this, the workers that have to
Mhm.
implement it into their daily journeys? What are they saying, and how are you incorporating those messages?
Hmm. That's actually a really good question because you hear so often in the news and everything that, oh, AI is going to take over my job.
Yeah.
Well, that's not really true. What it is if you're not adopting AI and you're not leveraging it in your workflows today, the person who is going to be taking your job. And so you have to build trust with, in my case, with the sellers and with the marketers that are using the platform and helping them to understand that this is not replacing you. This is leveling you up and taking some of the remedial tasks out of your hands so that you can focus on what's most important, which is the customer experience and what they're getting from you. And so by building the trust with the sellers and helping them to understand that, they're more willing to consider changing their workflows and leveraging that technology. Now, that can also go a negative way, which is you get some that are really excited about it and they learn that they can go in and create these AI generated emails. And next thing you know, they're emailing 600 people at a time. And you're going, hold on a second. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of it is to take the time to personalize your messages and to make sure that what you're actually delivering is value. We will take, some of the grammar, the editing, the what is the brand messaging and put that into play for you.
Mhm.
But this is not a mass mail, AI type of solution.
That doesn't mean we want you to spam the entire mailing list, because then when that comes back, when they reply, when they respond, you don't have that opportunity for that personal connection. Let's talk about readiness. You mentioned CRM data, you mentioned scrubbing the information, getting that database clean of duplicate records, and really the old computer science garbage in, garbage out things, we bring that to mind. How do you know personally when a team is ready for AI, given that this use case, or does it maybe need more groundwork? Like, do you need to spend more time preparing, or is it go send those 600 emails? Kidding aside, like, how do you know when it's time to say you've got this?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about the trust versus the skepticism, which also goes kind of hand in hand with the willingness to unlearn old habits.
Hmm.
We're used to doing things the way that we're used to doing them. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is to get somebody to change their habits and to change the way they're doing things. We started with a small pilot of users. And so what we were able to do is really develop those champions. And those champions were the ones that were able to really easily help us to get the rest of the sellers and the marketers for that point on board to Outreach as a platform. And they became evangelists. And as soon as we
Hmm.
started to see more people go, hey, I want to use that too, I'm now in a situation where I went from supporting one region in Outreach to I have other regions of sellers raising their hands going, hey, can we take advantage of that too? Because they're seeing the success in deliverability. They're getting higher reply rates and meetings
Hmm.
booked because the messaging is better. And I have to put one caveat out there because I know some of my sellers will be, well, we don't want to use marketing messaging. We want our sales messaging. And it is a combination of the two. I think it's really about getting those champions, building that group of support, and then the leaders that will champion it as well.
And let's talk about the leaders. You really sort of it feels like you're advocating for an organic solution where peers are sharing the good news and the results, and really how these tools can be build them to the next level and help make their jobs easier. But talk about leadership enthusiasm. A lot of times we hear, oh, I read this in the story and it's, oh, this great, we're going to go all in on AI, we're going to commit 20% of our budget to AI tokens. But how do you get the real signals that is beyond that leadership enthusiasm?
Yeah, I think looking at any of the AI implementations that we've done at Software One, and there are many, especially being we're a Microsoft Frontier partner, so we are first to market. We drink our own Kool-Aid. We're using it, and so a lot when I think specifically to outreach, we have the statistics that show how sellers' pipelines are improving through using this platform. So I think it's really important at the outset, you don't just kind of jump right into it because I hear people say a lot of the time, oh, I have this problem. Oh, we'll throw it at AI. AI will fix the problem. Well, no, AI is not going to solve everything.
Yeah.
AI is really good with certain things. And when you are figuring out what those things are, you need to look at how are we going to measure that success to show that it's
Right.
working. And so we were really good at putting some of those things in place around, adoption of using things like Kaya, our conversational intelligence, looking at making sure that they were booking all of their meetings using Outreach so that that component would come into it. And now
Hmm.
when I get a monthly report out, I'm seeing, hey, this sales group, because they're all using it, have just jumped 5% in pipeline over the last week or whatever it might be. And so we're able to really correlate all of the steps in the sales and marketing process to be able to connect that back to the solution.
You've talked about a few of the use cases. You've mentioned them as examples, but let's dive a little bit deeper. Help me understand some of the surprises or revelations and understanding when you take these particular areas that you're shifting, if you will, into an AI driven model. You mentioned measurability, you mentioned booking meetings. What are some things that really unlocked value for you and your team?
Within our North American sales org, we have all of our sellers and marketers using Outreach. And so that means you've got an entire account team. What was really eye opening for us is in the past, you had a CRM where you could only see an account that you were tagged to. Well, now they
Mhm.
have an account pod that can see everything that's going on with that customer, from a solution specialist who's having a deep dive discussion with technical information that the account manager didn't attend because that just wasn't their area of expertise.
Technical. Yeah.
Exactly. To, a services leader wanting to hear how did that positioning actually go, to a marketer going, hey, is that messaging actually landing? Is our value prop right? Now we can connect all of the dots between those conversations because we have Kaya, we have the conversational intelligence. I can run a report, for example, that shows me how many times has somebody mentioned the word copilot in
Mm.
their meetings this week. Copilot is a huge piece of our portfolio that we work with our customers on. But if I have a seller who's not talking Copilot at all, now I can flag that and go, do I need to do some enablement? Do I need to look at maybe the customer base that they're working with? Is it just that that's not fitting into their solution path?
Right.
So it's creating this huge awareness. Like the brain is growing in terms of the amount of data that we can process to make better, more informed decisions.
It sounds like you've taken some cleanup, you've enabled some teams, you've allowed it to share organically, and now you're really reaping the benefits of being able to see from an observability standpoint what's going on throughout the org, but then being able to up level and enable different functionality with all of your sellers and all of your teams. Heather Dahmer, the global head of demand gen, sales, activation, and intelligence with SoftwareOne. Before I let you go, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience that says, this is what I took away from this? You should really know this one nugget.
Ooh, I think understanding the workflows is the most important, and don't throw everything at AI.
Mm,
Work with somebody, whether you choose a partner to work with, whatever it may be. Work with somebody who can help you understand what is it that I'm trying to achieve. That's one thing we work with our customers on. It's something that Outreach worked with us on, to make sure that you're building and following that maturity model as well. So, understand what you need to do, how you're going to fund it, and then start to look at how do you build the adoption, the governance, the scale, etc. Because, yeah, otherwise you'll end up with AI everywhere and you won't know what to do with it. And especially as we start looking at, how tokenomics and everything else is coming
yeah.
into play, that budget's going to get really, really tight. So you got to have control and governance over it.
Yeah. And then start getting an eye on that now so that when these become even more important down the road, that you're ready, that you're organized, and that your teams feel prepared and equipped. Heather, I want to thank you for the time today. I'm Brian Westbrook with GeekWire Studios. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much.